because once you do that, it becomes a hell of a lot easier to do a diet hard when you need to. Hello and welcome to 100% Real with Ready for a Song, because guess who's back? My boo-boo's back. And this podcast is gonna blow your mind because you want the X physique. The last few episodes have been going on about the importance of training because it is not understood enough. We are also going to get into the lies that are on social media about body recomposition because it is undoing you. It is stopping you from building what you want to build. It is confusing the absolute feck out of you. There is this, do you like my results? Follow along with me on my fat loss journey. Everything is, of course, going to pull at you when all you want to do is just get that more toned look. But every single time you try, you feel like you're just getting fluffy. And I want to start this out by just giving a little example of a client who came to me recently, and I was a little worried by telling her as it is and not bowing down to what most trainers typically do. They bow down to, okay, well, this is what you want, I'm going to give it to you. She realizes now in retrospect that I guess it's because she's realizing it in other people. She realized that's what she was doing. It's very hard to see what is keeping you stuck when you're inside of the box. And I'm using the fat loss example so that I can then tie it to the training one. You hire a coach because you want to get leaner, you want to get more toned. Like, that's typically the way that people see coaching. It's like, well, I can just get a program and that's going to build me muscle because I can just lift weights and train hard and do all of the right things. If you listen to Tracy's podcast, I highly recommend you listen to it because she was doing all of the right things. She was training really hard, but her body wasn't changing. We can go down to the fact that she was on and off diets because she always wanted to clean it up. But regardless, it's not the food. You can play around with your food all that you want, but it's not going to build muscle. If that was the case, she would have built it when she was in those periods of, oh, well, I'm not on a diet, I'm gonna eat whatever the fuck I want. That would have put her in a surplus. But no, she still didn't have any muscle underneath. Yeah, okay, it kind of looked like she was bulky because of muscle, but no, that's body fat. Muscle is not bulky. Like, most people would assume that I'm like 40 something kilos when they see me. But no, I'm heavy. I'm way heavier than I look because of muscle mass. And even my clothes are probably bigger than what you would assume because of the same thing. I think that's the other thing we get trapped in. People aren't going to see the importance of what we're talking about in building the X physique, and they're going to cut themselves short if I don't put the elephants out there now. Your lats are the reason that your chest measurements may get bigger. Your lats, and you need that for the X physique. So if you're freaking out about the fact that your blouses and tight that you can't fit them on, I went to try on 2 jumpers when we were going to go out the other day. I had a hissy freaking fit because my 2 favorite cardigans, I couldn't even get my friggin' arm through. And I do not have fat arms. It just would not fit through. Your body changes as you go through this journey, and you cannot stay tied to clothes. And it pisses me freaking hell off when people say body recomp means no, the scale's not going to go down, but your clothes are going to feel different. Yeah, but it depends. They're not always going to feel looser. In most cases, they are not, because muscle isn't just muscle. There's muscle fibers, but then there's all the fluid around it that make up a muscle cell. That is glycogen, that's hydration, that stuff is beneficial for you. Now, that elephants aside, the clients that I was talking about, yes, they came to me. They were in a rush when they wanted to hire their old coaches. Is why they never got results. That's why I'm going to start this podcast out with asking, kind of like a rhetorical question, because it's saying with an ask. You know what I mean? What have you been doing this whole time? Haven't you exhausted the same method over and over again? Haven't you? You're not going to make a faulty system suddenly work by pushing it harder. You're gonna burn out the engine because it's like having your car in neutral. It's not gonna go anywhere. You're just pressing the pedal harder and harder and harder and harder. You can try to put in a new engine, but the car's still in fucking neutral, bro. Like, you're not moving. Regardless, that's the question. Keep that in mind. When you see people training in the gym, what mistakes do you typically see them make when they You made the best statement, actually. When you go into the gym, how many people do you see there that pretty much look the same and you've seen them for years and years and years? Go.
What's the biggest mistake or issue? Well, I wouldn't say there's one big mistake, but the biggest thing I see is consistency. You have to show up. You have to show up even when you don't feel like going. You have to show up all the time. Without consistency, your body's not.
But what stops consistency? And you're a good example of this.
For me personally, mine was, I think, a little bit of burnout, a little bit of frustration post-comp. The drive was gone. I'd reached my goal, and then what? What do I do now? So I was a bit lost. I was like, why am I here? What am I doing? Why am I putting all this effort in? And what am I doing it for? And then when I didn't have a reason for, like, it became very difficult to get my ass in the gym.
Relate this to my audience, because this is bang on. This is not about the comp. This is not about what he did. This is literally what most of your approaches are. It's not just about that. It's you're burnt out from, you probably had a shitty coach.
That's the biggest thing I see that's different is most coaches, I guess you're a name and a number and they don't care about personal stuff so much. It's more about, your lifts, your diet, and next customer, as opposed to trying to get the underlying what's going on in your life, like what's causing you to struggle to get to the gym or stick to a diet, or what's the obstacles in the way and how can we get past that? Like it's much more in depth.
You nailed it on the head, because that's why it's so alluring. Like you said, it's going to get you those fast results, because what have you been taught to measure? I always get clients that take months to let go of the scale and fuck that thing off, because it's not going to do you any benefit when you're body recomping, is it, Adam? No, it's not, because it's going to.
The other thing is that people look at it and it moves by a kilo or 2 kilos and they're like, oh my God, I've put 2 kilos on, or I've lost 2 kilos. At the end of the day, that could just be water. It could be backed up. It could be.
It's like, what does it matter anyway, though? Because it's not meant to be changing all that much in a body recomposition phase. If you're in a surplus or if you're in a deficit, yeah, it's going to be moving. But what are you expecting out of a freaking scale in a body recomp?
They're watching it that tightly that they're expecting it to do one thing, and when it does the opposite, they're like, oh my God, what have I done wrong? I ate what I was meant to. I did what I was meant to, but why did it go the wrong way?
This is exactly it. And what do you see all the time? What are people showing all the time in their journeys?
It can be very goal driven. So every time they want to go on a holiday, the leaner they get, and then they come back or they go on holidays and start to have a bit of food and some drinks and enjoy the holiday, as people should, but maybe a little too much. And then they come back and go, oh, what have I done? All right, time to do it again.
Is that your goal in all of this? Do you want to live like that fluctuating yo-yo? Is the more that you do that yo-yo, you're not really giving yourself much chance to build muscle. Every single time you pop a baby out of your womb, you're going to have that period of time, 6 to 8, whatever many weeks. There's literally no real time frame. You can go back to the gym like a month after. There's more and more research saying you can go back as soon as you're ready. And some people can go back to doing light activities within a couple of weeks. So that whole 9 months, you're not meant to be focusing on losing or building. That is doing everything you possibly can to quote unquote build muscle, but you're maintaining muscle. You don't just keep muscle. You don't just keep muscle. You have to pay your rent. Rent is due to put in the work to make that muscle stay there.
The body's efficient. So if the body doesn't need it, it'll get rid of it.
Back to that consistency piece, because this is huge. He just said it himself. Burnout. We are putting these extreme goals on ourselves. Excellence, trying to get the best at something, mastery excellence is an obsession. It's not perfection. It's not about excellence comes with ups and downs. It comes with failure. It comes with wins, but you get back to the work. You don't let them get to your head. You have the losses and you still get back to the work. But none of that matters if you're not having the time to reflect on what lessons did you learn, because you're just going to keep repeating the same mistakes again. There's a trap. You're not going to grow from that without having someone else on the outside help you with seeing your blind spots, because you don't know what you don't know. That's why the best of the best have mentors. They have people in their corner. Community is a huge part of this. Excellence requires reprieve. It requires you to have that rest. I've always said this. You cannot have discipline without self-compassion. They go hand in hand. Discipline requires self-compassion. It may not be on the same extreme levels that it used to be. It doesn't have to be. Like I see a lot of people saying, I wish I was as disciplined as I was in the past. Yeah, well, you had a different lifestyle in the past. And now Adam also has a different lifestyle now. He has a job that demands a lot out of him. You guys will be having more career opportunities for growth. You probably have more relationships, kids. The kids get more and more commitments as they go, and all of that matters and all of that factors in. It doesn't mean you're not going to get results. It means you need to be realistic with yourself, but it also means you can't be putting your life on hold to do these sprints, burning yourself out, and then what? So that is one part of consistency. What Adam said is the biggest part of this with the coaches. I get a lot of clients coming to me saying that they feel like their coaches, they didn't see that it feels like they're giving you what you want, because all you got taught to measure, okay, well, we're doing photos, we're doing measurements, we're doing progress photos every single week. Again, what the hell, what is with progress photos every single week when you're in a body recomp phase, let alone a fat loss phase? Fat loss phase, okay, fortnightly, unless we're doing a mini cut, unless we're doing an aggressive fat loss phase. That is the only time that I ask for things on a weekly basis. In a fat loss phase, depending on the client, if it's a overweight client, and that's the only way, I only have 3 clients that I have tracking their scale weight in fat loss phases because it's the only way to get them to adhere. But the thing is, they never wanted to do it. Usually when we don't want to do something, it's something that we actually need to do in a sense. But when it's something that you've relied on your whole life as this is the only way I'm succeeding, this is the validation, it's not going to serve you. And that is what's going to hold you back. When you zoom out and realize muscle, the hardness, the tone, no matter what you do, you can't eat more on, you can't protein more on. That is in the training. And if I had to come up with something that holds most people back, it's not consistency. Consistency is that's the symptom. That's just the flashy lights on the top. We need to go upstream and figure out, okay, well, why? And that's because we're focusing on the wrong shit. We are focusing on the wrong shit. The only shit you should focus on is the shit that's on my head, because it's a poop. I don't know if you're playing around with Spotify with the video, but that's what matters is quality training. That's where we need to focus. It can feel like you're working hard and you can take sets to failure, but it doesn't mean the muscle's getting that signal it needs to grow, because you can go in fasted, lift like 40 kilos, that be burning to failure and you just failed your last rep. Or you could actually go fed with some rice cakes or something in the morning that's gonna grill you up, and you could easily do like 80 kilos and actually take it to failure and rest for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and go again. Now that is sending the right stimulus to your muscles. What do apps typically do? They change the program every like 4-6 weeks. Question to you, how long have you been doing your shit for?
Me?
Yeah, your exercises. Like, you don't change them every 4 weeks.
God, no. No.
Not only you know what you're doing when you walk into the gym, but if you're progressing every single week, your muscles aren't growing. It's as simple as that, because you shouldn't be progressing every single week. Your muscles do not grow that fast. You can't chase progressive overload. You don't go into the gym, hey, I'm going to progressively overload today. No, you walk into the gym, you do your warm-up sets for every exercise, because warm-up sets I like what you said on this one too. Warm-up sets aren't just about warming up to some working weight. It's you're greasing the groove.
I don't even like the name of it, warm-up set. I don't think that's right. So most people think they just do it just to warm up a joint or a muscle or something. What it's about is just connecting to the muscle, focusing on how you're going to do the movement when you actually got load on it, and making that mind-muscle connection during those sets so that you're ready to go for the heavy stuff.
Let's just call weddings, the rehearsal thingy, let's just call them warm-up weddings. No, you need to take it seriously, because that shit's expensive. You're investing a lot into that wedding day. So you need to take the rehearsal just as seriously. Call it a pregame. Think of it as a pregame. It should look just as serious. You should be focusing on bracing, engaging your lats. If you don't know how to use your big toe, if you don't know how to use your lats, if you don't know how to use your rib cage, I need you to look at your training more. I need you to rethink your approach, because you're not going to be building any tightness in your body. You're not going to be seeing the body recomposition you want. Now, scale weight. Why do you think the industry, all of you guys, are just obsessed with this let's lose weight thing, this scale? Because it's all that we somehow seem to value. There's nothing attractive about seeing the same before and after, month after month after month.
It's about the scale weight. I
Who?
think the only person who cares about the scale weight is the person jumping on it.
Mm.
No one else gives a shit.
And it doesn't say a thing like, yeah, okay, cool. You know the value of muscle. So let's not worry about the scale. Let's use a body fat test instead. I'm seeing DEXA scans everywhere. Yeah, I'm even talking about DEXA scans. DEXA scans are supposed to be the gold standard. They are just as inaccurate. Well, if you go and do it 1 month and then 4 months later, you can track the trends, and 4 months later, no. You're just tracking inaccurate data against inaccurate data. One could be 6% one way, the other one could be 6% the other way. Now you have a 12% discrepancy. Is that actually a trend that you want to follow? And the in-body test, I can rant on about those, because what do 12-week challenges do? Oh, they get you training. They get you they get you training. So what happens? Your muscles get more hydrated. You get a lot more blood volume in there. So when the muscles fill up, now it looks like you have more muscle mass. You have less body fat percentage. You can change your diet. By cutting out carbs, most likely we'll see a dehydrated reading. You're going to look like you lost muscle.
Deflated.
Yeah, I remember when I was that emotional being so low carb. This guy came up to me when I was training. He comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, you're looking like you lost a lot of muscle." I'm like, "Well, fuck you." because I had to do this low carb protocol because my gut was a mess, and they decided to extend it because the gut issue didn't solve itself. So it went on for a month. I felt like shit. I was crying in my sets. Yeah, cool. I looked like quote unquote leaner because I had quite substantial muscle. I just looked deflated with the leanness. I lost a bunch of weight because I was on a shit ton of carbs, from 300 grams of carbs down to like 100 grams of carbs, which I was struggling with. My training was shit. That's all I cared about. And because my training was shit, I had zero motivation. When you are coming at this from a fasted state, from a let's just get results as fast as possible state, it's very hard for you to maintain motivation and consistency because that is all you're focused on. Where is the focus on stuff that actually can progress over time consistently? Because the scale isn't going to go down forever. It's like the scale version of Benjamin Button. So what do you see people flocking to the comments when these two influencers do their cuts? What are you noticing in there?
I'm not really reading the comments, just noticing the trend that they seem to go on holidays 3 or 4 times a year. And what they do is go into a cut before each time they're going on holidays. Enjoy the holiday, come back, don't really have any drive, put a bit back on. And then like, oh, we've got another holiday coming up in 3 months' time. All right, it's time to go on another diet.
Wouldn't you want the real flex is being able to maintain what you get and only improving over time? I mean, if they're okay with it just staying the same, and well, they're not really staying the same.
Going backwards.
Yeah, especially I can't imagine how she's going to be because she's still really young. So she has a little bit more potential than most of you guys listening to this. If you're over 40, good luck. Good freaking luck. You guys listen to a podcast from someone who's a coach, and everything he's saying is just so contradictory against everything he was saying before. And I'm like, I've been saying this for fucking ages. But then there's parts of what he's saying that just does not make sense. And I'm like, what the hell are you on about, bro? It's because none of it makes sense. It's just when you come at it from a place where you don't really understand the science, it's like, he must know what he's talking about. This is what it needs to look like. His clients before and afters, women can achieve the best body recomposition. Really, it looks to me like you just made sure that they're training hard. They're not eating miserable calories and miserable carbs, and they lost fat. They don't look like they built all that much muscle. It seems that way because he also said it's going to be harder to lose weight. It's like, no, it's not. It's not. The only thing that's difficult is the fact that you now have all these other factors to fit into your life. And if you're someone who can't push yourself in training and push yourself, you're genuinely going to move around much slower, especially if you haven't already built up the fitness lifestyle, the muscle, because it's that gives you the energy, the power. And the less that the less trained you are, the more difficult you're going to find all of this as you age. You are less anabolic. So protein becomes more of an issue. Training regularly and hard becomes more of a priority. And if you aren't focusing on building muscle and you're still so focused on burning yourself out with circuits or training 6-7 days a week, it's not going to do you any good. So I hope this gives you a kick up the bum to focus on what actually matters. You've seen me in this whole process as well, and you've been through it yourself with the consistency. But these women, they want, it's very hard to say that, stay patient. No one is going to stay patient. It is a really hard thing to do.
You've got to put the build in and you've got to put the work in. I mean, it depends where you're starting from. If you're new to this and you haven't lifted weights before, then the first thing you need to do is build. Building is what will boost your metabolism. Building is necessary because every time you diet, you are going to lose muscle. The best bodybuilders in the world, taking the most anabolic stuff in the world, lose muscle when they go on a diet. The goal is to lose as little muscle as possible. But if you're dieting frequently, you're losing muscle every time. You need to build. You don't want to be in a deficit for too long because otherwise you're just losing.
And that's the thing, because that little bit that you lose, you can gain back just as fast if you do the right things. But if you're dieting all the time, Adam said it.
Build.
Yeah, where's the build? And 8 months isn't
You
enough.
pull money out of the bank eventually. There's not going to be anything in the account.
I'm going to give my answer at the end of this. For what stops most people, that's you don't know what it actually takes to train for body recomposition, because you need to put in a lot of foundational work before the muscle even starts to grow. But most of you are stopping it short when the magic has only just started, because 6 months isn't enough. And if you're doing a cut for summer every single year, you are not going to build anything. And for most of you, I would not even recommend you go into a surplus, yet most people are doing this bulk and cut cycles. Unless you've built up your training capacity to a decent degree first, don't do a freaking quote unquote bulk. Don't do this stupid ass surplus until you've built that up. Once you're training hard, once the training is doing the work, now we need to feed it. And this is where that foundational work comes in, because in that whole process, we've hopefully shifted your meaning of progress, your meaning of success, your motivational pullers. Because if we can actually focus on the stuff that matters in the exercises that matter for creating the X physique, because this stuff matters. And if we can give you things to focus on, I think you will, I know you will, start to reframe how this whole thing gets to mean to you. It's not about achieving XYZ that makes you feel fulfilled and happy and leads to this amazing life. It's the fact that in the process, all of the work that you've done worked back on you. It's like a ground reaction force. You're putting in the work the right way, things that are involved in all of that, the grit, the proving to yourself you can do it, testing your limits, realizing you're more capable than you thought of, putting all of these structures in place to make sure that the things happen so you can stay consistent. It completely changes your life. The fact that you're going to have ups, you're going to have downs. You have to be patient with the logbook. It humbles you in the process. You realize just how difficult this thing is. It's not a matter of XYZ. Like, you can jump on every GLP-1. It's not going to build muscle. That's why people are walking around like sloppy marshmallows. If all you can see is the value in let's get as small as possible, the GLP-1s are going to fuck you over, because you're going to love the fact that you don't have an appetite. Next minute, you're not having enough protein. Next minute, your energy is through the drains. Yes, you can be training hard and failing, but none of that is counting. None of that is counting. You can be failing your reps. Here's another one. In a diet, in a deficit, you can be failing your reps. Adam, I remember him saying just how difficult his sessions were, that he was struggling to push through. He was failing his reps. But the reps, the weight he was using was like piss compared to what he uses now. Does that mean that he was growing muscle because he was training to failure and it felt freaking hard? No. He was lucky to be keeping it. But he looked friggin' amazing on stage both times, that his main two, because he didn't do diet after diet. He did diet. He chose his main priority and went all out for that one. And so he looked the part. But that isn't the goal that we want. We don't want what he did, but it's still what many of you are doing in your approach with any diet. Like, it doesn't even matter if you're going to that extreme. And I'm going to use something my client said, because it's kind of my whole story, because I was in the best mind frame when I did this. But as soon as I got into it, I was since I got into it, I was great. I was amazing for the first year or so. That's why I built so much muscle in my first year, but not as much as I thought. I thought that when I do my first fat loss phase, I'll see so much, but those glutes I had, those legs I had nothing. That's the illusion. Like, we think that we built a lot of muscle, but muscle ain't growing that fast, even as a newbie. But because of the coach that I had to weigh in. I had to do these progress photos. What did I become obsessed with? The scale. What did I become obsessed with? This feeling of lean. As soon as I stepped off stage, I felt great. 2 days later, I feel like a freaking whale. Yet you can still see striations in my ass cheeks. That is what this thing does to you. That is why you need to have that outside eye. That's why you need to understand the journey and have a guiding star that isn't this outcome, but process. And stop setting smart goals. They're stupid because we measure the wrong things to start with. So that fucks off the air. Most of us don't even know what's realistic with, well, it doesn't mean that that's what we put against us. If it was your child, you would probably pull her up on it and say, hey, I don't like that language. You're being like a cow to yourself. Speak kindly to yourself. You would say that to your child, but you wouldn't take care of yourself in the same way. Imagine if your husband, every single time you put on a skirt, said, your butt looks horrible in that. Oh my God, you look so fat. Every single time you try to put an effort to look good. And then you put in even more effort because you just want to prove yourself. Ugh, you're really choosing those earrings? That is what you do to yourself every single freaking day. Would you stay in that marriage? I don't think so. So is being hard on yourself and critiquing yourself every single step of the way because you're not good enough, you're not there yet, helping you. Whereas if you encourage yourself and put the focus on the effort, the things that actually matter in the gym, what should we be measuring? Take your progress photos. The fact that you even go from squishy marshmallow shoes into proper gym shoes, even socks, that's a start. Start using straps. Wow, we just have a mini win. You went from a chick that just throws around shit to someone who seriously lifts weights because you're wearing straps. If you're not wearing straps for everything, I'd be questioning your effort because your grip isn't what we're training here. We want to connect to the muscle. It's the same as warm-up sets. Straps aren't just to help your grip. They're there so you don't have to think about holding a weight, so that you can actually connect to the muscle and focus on the muscle that's working. So all these different things are exactly what I help my clients with within my Ruby Recomp program, because there's many different ways to recomp. The way that you're approaching it should have got your results by now if you chose the right one. So I would reflect on if you are better off now than you were a year ago, 2 years ago, because even the things that are the right things may only be that through our glasses. But when you take a different lens, we need to start realigning ourselves. But if you're not getting challenged to do some hard things to push you out just slightly outside of your comfort zone, because we don't want to throw you into the deep end, then you're not growing. You don't grow from comfort. You grow from pushing yourself with the right things in the right direction with support along the way, because everyone needs some of that. The fact that we don't know what we don't know.
And proof of discomfort, go and look photos of Ruby during a set.
Oh my God.
That makes there's discomfort.
Yeah. Like today's training was nasty, very, very nasty, but it was even worse because my heart was through the roof. So I had to take a longer rest than usual, but my legs are still really sore from today.
I think we should do a collage of Ruby faces.
If there's no joy in this, then what are you doing it for? And if you've lost that joy, it's time for you to pause and rekindle that joy, because that's possible. What is it that we can start to connect to that can make you start to enjoy this process a little bit more? Are you putting too much pressure on yourself? Are you expecting too much too soon? Do you have unrealistic timelines? Are you only focused on the physical changes? Because you're never going to feel good if your metric of feeling good is, I want to feel smaller. But if you start to notice how your energy is better, how you show up differently. I remember what did you say about the way I walk around the gym when you first met me?
Like you own it. It's your gym.
And then when I am not like that, kind of like the conversation that we had about goals, he's like, what's your goal in the gym? He's like, we are on a completely different level, and he would not come down to my level until later. He finally saw what I meant. Like, the only thing that I care about is knowing that today, I am proud of my training today. I put in my best effort. And it's not because I got PRs on things. It's because I know I freaking pushed myself. I gave that extra rep. And there was a time when I was like, there was one of my sets on the pendulum. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give myself a little breather. I know that it isn't the same rep cadence But that's why putting notes into your training log is so important. You're not just putting weights and reps. Actually write notes, because if it looks like you match the reps, you might think the next week, oh, I can increase the weight. And then when it's really freaking difficult, you beat yourself up for it. Whereas if you had notes saying, no, I rest paused, what I typically do when I write mine, I write ×5 ×6. Then in brackets, I do R+P, rest pause. So I know that I rest paused. Or if I find something really freaking brutal, I put one of those emoji faces. So do that, take the notes. And one thing that I encourage a lot of my clients to do, that working on that consistency and finding that joy and passion in the gym, I get them to put the little arrow emojis or fire emojis whenever they feel something really good, or whenever they increase the reps or the weight, especially when they're in that period of time when it is more possible for them to do that. Notice how I say the fire and the up arrow, because you're not always going to be increasing the weights, and you need to be okay with that. Because if you're going to lose motivation because your training doesn't feel like it's moving anywhere, or you're going to change the program because now you're not progressing anymore, apparently you actually aren't going to progress, because you need to be fighting to even match the logbook. I'm always going up and down. That's okay, because over the retrospect, I'm still sending that signal to my muscle on a progressive scheme over the course of the weeks. Your strength isn't just about what the muscle can do. My strength sucks when we go training too late. That's going to impact you as well. Have a stressful day, you're going to be in your head, and that's going to impact you too, because your performance, your ability to exert the force that your muscles need to grow, that's central nervous system, that's brain to muscle. So if you're stressed out, you're not able to get into an aroused state to be able to push your muscles where it needs to go. I sent Adam that pendulum. Remember I sent you the difference in between the pendulums, and you're like, yeah, it's almost like you got a second wind of gas on the last couple of reps. I'm like, yeah, because I realized that I was in my head too much. So then I just kind of smacked my head about, said, get your shit together. I got my shit together. It took me about 15 minutes to get into the session, but I did. I've been sending Adam some dances. Well, one of them anyway.
Like a kangaroo.
And I did that in front of people, but I had to get myself amped up.
You set yourself up, and then you pulled back away, and then realized you hadn't edited it out. The kangaroo. You were ray gun.
Yeah, that was for the RDL.
Gun doing a breakdance.
It's so funny. That was for the RDLs, but I actually love my RDLs. It's just I had to amp myself up for it. Sometimes you have to do that as well. But when the juice becomes more than the squeeze, I think we need to stop putting pressure on ourselves and trying to force a peg through a round hole, and realize that it's okay to shift instead of forcing it. And this exercise is a great analogy of that. It's okay to shift. It means we're parking it for now. We don't have to put it down forever. We can come back to it, but just not right now. And I think if you can go into this with that mindset that it's not black or white, it can be this and this, just not right now. Apply this to your food. You can have that extra bit, but just not right now, because you're in a fat loss phase. That's it. Say no. You should be able to say no. You should be able to have the ability to hold yourself to your word in a fat loss phase. The reason you don't isn't because you need more discipline and willpower. It's because you burnt them the fuck out, because all you ever do is diet and focus on dieting and focus on the scale, and you don't have any other means of, let's actually chase something that's exciting. Let's actually do something that means more than just what the scale says and diet it. Because once you do that, it becomes a hell of a lot easier to do a diet hard when you need to. Keep that in mind, and be careful what you believe online when you see before and after photos, because you might see this amazing transformation in 6 to 8 weeks, but that is not their before and after. That is somewhere through their journey. Actually, why I get triggered by stuff like that. I don't really follow it. She's freaking there's nothing, what is she teaching women?
Just maybe the messaging. I don't even think they deliberately do it, but the messaging's probably not amazing.
Messaging's not amazing. Right. That's kind of something to keep in mind when you're seeing these things. Be careful what you believe. Be careful what you cling to. Because I could easily go and gain a bunch of weight and then lose it all and then look really shredded, and then you'd be like, what the fuck? But I did it in 6 weeks, and you've been doing this for 6 years, 10 years. And you're like, how are you so lean after that? Well, bro, you don't know the start of my journey. You've never seen me before. How the hell can she lift that much? You don't know my history. You don't know my history. Be realistic with yourself. Understand what actually matters so that you can focus on it. You can find your drive and get the direction you need so that you can feel confident again. And if there's anything else that you guys want to talk about, shoot me a message and I'd be happy to help. Let's get talking about where your programming could be going wrong, where your recomp could have gone wrong in the past, and what to focus on so that you can get the most out of your training, because that is what matters and it gives you something to focus on. That's exciting. Love you all and bye.